Okay, this is game 2 against Luffy playing a Reanimator deck. Again, I had a problem with the recording, so I'm having to record a copy of the recording. But I think all will be well here. Well, there you could hear me introducing it before. The problem I had was that the sound, I hadn't muted the sound, so it was coming in too loudly and you couldn't hear anything I was saying. So now that I'm recording it a second time, hopefully I can keep up with the action. Obviously he leads off with a strong start as far as mana development goes, and I don't have the same. And he's able to vamp as well, so things are definitely looking grim right out the gates. So far it's interesting because there are very few cards that he's played that you might not see in a more sophisticated format or a more, 4 of. Okay, well maybe not Elves of Deep Shadow. So there goes the Grave Titan, and here it comes. Now in the last game, if you had watched it, because again this is game 2, but if you had watched game 1, he reanimated a Terastodon, and it didn't work out for him because ended up chump blocking with the elephants, or using the elephants he gave me. So I think maybe he was hoping that by spreading out his threats, he would have a better chance of winning with his reanimated creature there. But unfortunately for him, no dice. So anyway, on his turn, he top decks a Soul Ring, and that's it. I draw and brainstorm for my turn, and I get rid of Deep Analysis and Regrowth, putting Regrowth on top. And I go ahead and Vandal Blast the Soul Ring right away. I've got the Quiet Spec, so if I need to grudge something, I can later. And at this point, I regrow the Vampiric. I really don't want to draw Deep Analysis. What I want is mana. And go for the end of turn Vamp, but unfortunately he's got a counter for it, so I guess I will be drawing that Deep Analysis after all. And still suffering for mana, so I make a desperation play here, sculpting Steel a Chrome Mox, eating Transmute Artifact, which clearly isn't going to do me much good right now. And unfortunately the Daze gave him Threshold, but he doesn't discard anything relevant. So, although it helped him dig, it really was just a self-inflicted wasteland there. But I guess it dug him down to survival, so at this point any creature he draws is a threat, not only for the creature, for the fact that he can get what he wants, but of course it'll power up Mimeoplasm as well. I have to kill that immediately, so I do. Specking leaves, since I already drew the Deep Analysis, it leaves the Teachings and a Grudge in the graveyard. And he draws and says go, and I get an Ancient Tomb, so passing the turn, and at the end of his next turn, I flash back that Teachings. Actually would have gotten the Teachings. I would have been happy to get the Teachings if I had known I had the Tomb. So at this point I felt like, I have a counter and I don't want to tap out on my turn, but I do need to continue to develop, so I took a Fact or Fiction. And find an ice. But I don't know if I made the right play here or not. I let him entomb Gitaxis. It may have been the wrong play, because now his commander's a threat, and it's a threat over and over and over. But I had a plan. So I counter the Mimeoplasm. And then here was a a decision point. I top deck Winter Orb, so that wasn't the original plan. The original plan was to destroy his graveyard on this turn with that Vampiric Tutor over there off my will, brainstorming. And the thought here was that if he drew his own will, I was completely screwed. So I talked myself into sticking with the original plan and not going the orb route, the orb grudge route. And we'll see what happens here. So will fires off, I vamp for the bog, I brainstorm, put 2 lands on top. One of them is a search land, so I can draw it in search next turn, flash back the Vandal Blast, and bog away his graveyard. Should leave me in a winning position. And then he top decks this, which, didn't I just put that back earlier? This thing just doesn't want to stay away. So now I'm in a tough spot because Regrowth and Will are gone. Terminus is in the graveyard. There's no way to sweep anymore. So I dig with Fact, and he gives me the options of a Future Sight, Chancery, or a couple lands and a Scepter. I take the Scepter. He has no way to know that that's the card I needed most. So Ice, Fire Ice gets imprinted, and during his upkeep I ice his guy, and look what I top deck. How amazing this deck is, and another top deck to go with it. One that's actually a little redundant at this point. And I think you're doing well when you're facing a creature deck and Shackles is redundant. So I don't throw it on the Shackles. He sees the handwriting on the wall, and game over. 2 different of this Grave Spawn guy defeated with within the same game. And I thought you'd appreciate that.